because I'm the man of this. No, I'm joking.
Do some joke.
How do I go? Do you know what? For me, I realize I have to be reassuring. And it's one of them ones where it's okay. So it starts with this from the beginning of our marriage. I've always given Tolu the leeway to say, and well, not to say I've given her, but we've always had this understanding where, if Tolu needs to speak to me about anything, she just needs to sit me down. And there's a particular like key phrase. I was about to make a reference to Marvel there, but let's leave that alone. There's like a key phrase. She said, "Look, Leke, I need to speak to you, and I need you to listen." Because there's one thing about me is that I generally would listen, but when it's very specific with Leke, I need to talk to you and I need you to listen. I know I need to engage my head and my heart to hear what she's saying, and not just hear the words she's saying, but hear what's coming from her heart and what she's really saying. So that's always been kind of our thing, and we practice that, and it needs to be practiced. It's not something that we do naturally. It's a practice thing, and especially for generally guys where we think we know that what the other person's going to say, so they talk and we're like, oh yeah, we know what you're going to say. So I have to actively listen. So be understanding in terms of hearing where she's at, and then be reassuring, and then be part of the solution. So if she's suggesting something, so there was a season where I became more and more busy in the last couple of weeks, because I started getting a bit more gigs in terms of teaching online, in terms of going to different places and helping other churches to set up their live streams and stuff like that. So I was a lot more busier. So she then suggested, okay, can we change the cooking rota so I cook a bit more, so she cooks a bit more and I cook a bit less. And I was a bit kind of like, oh, and I feel bad, because if you're cooking more, that means you're doing a lot more of that. And then do you know what I mean? So it was just trying to find the balance and say, okay, what works best for us? And then so it made me had to be a bit more conscious about, okay, I know I'm doing the Lord's work, but actually my marriage is more important. That's my first ministry in that sense. So I then had to kind of adjust myself and then be a bit more conscious on the days that I take stuff and on days that I don't take stuff, that I know I am at home and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So listening, definitely, being reassuring, being understanding, and being part of the solution. So it's not, and another thing that I want people to understand is that it's never Tolu against Leke. It should never ever be Tolu against Leke. It's always, we're together, we're team Mrs. and Mrs. LT, we're on the same team.
We have to keep remembering
and we keep reminding ourselves
the
consistently.
enemy be trying it.
Trust me, the Bible says that he's the accuser of the brethren, and it's very, very easy for my thoughts or the enemy to drop thoughts in my mind to say, oh, Tony's like this, or Tony did this, or Tony did that, and I'm like, yeah, she did, didn't she? And that causes tension in the house, and it's unnecessary. Do you know what I mean? So it's that element of understanding that first and foremost, that Tolu does love me, and if she does say anything to me, she is doing it out of love, and it's not because she's being malicious or being horrible. So as I said, so it's being understanding, listening, and being part of the solution, and not just seeing as, oh, she's been a moany old woman,
moany wife,
a moany wife, a moany
nagging
woman.
wife.
Do you know what I mean? But she's actually being genuine and really wants solution here rather than just being difficult. So
that's great. So I have one question. You guys both were like in ministry before you guys both got married, or doing business, or before you guys both got married?
Yeah, we were.
We were.
Yeah, I've been in ministry since I was 11.
Wow.
Yeah, so I remember my pastor at that time just said, called me out from the children's area and said, from now on, you Leke, you are the keyboardist for this church.
Wow.
I was like, bruh. And at that time, I can only play 4 chords, and that's all I knew. Every song, no matter what genre, no matter what rhythm, no matter what key, I played those 4 chords in the same order for a couple of months. So it was like training under fire, basically, just consistent training. So, but since then, it's just interesting how that little decision has made me, by his grace, to who I am or what I am today. Yeah, literally, it literally set me up for the rest of my life almost. So but that was me.
For me, I started being in ministry when I went to university. So I was in a fellowship. I was a leader in a fellowship for a couple of years. Then when I came out of that, then I was part of Genesis. So, and church, different. So we were actually.
So that leads to my next question, because I'm also in a season where I'm building a business and trying to get closer to Christ. So my question is that, so how were you guys able to merge, like, your busy life, you build a relationship with Christ, and now become one? Because sometimes it's not easy when you're so used to, oh, I'm always making a decision yourself, and now you gotta think about somebody else. Oh, I gotta consider this person now making decisions. So how did that work out for you guys to start?
I think it was weird because when I remember the time when we were engaged, and so for us we planned a lot of the togetherness thing. So trying to get a
Mm.
house and doing other things as well. So we had to sort of start that before we got married. So some of the things that we did in terms of renting out a house, they were already in our name. So it really started, for me personally, it started from before we got married, when we started making the adult decisions.
Yeah.
And sometimes even just the beginning of the marriage, I always used to correct Leke, maybe sometimes not as a joke, but sometimes more of a joke. And then at times I'm like, we're married, but he used to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and this is at my
that's
house,
true.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
bruh, we're married, it's we. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I said, for me
Yeah.
personally, that we mentality kind of started a bit earlier. I don't know, I wouldn't say that it didn't start for you, but
Yeah.
in terms of the way I address certain things, like, oh, we are gonna do this and we are gonna in some aspects. So for me, I think now that we're 6 years in, I want to say that we're used to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of making those decisions,
Yeah.
you know, life decisions that we have to make, or business or whatever. But in the beginning, I don't think it was too much of a
Switch.
no. It
For
wasn't
me,
too
I
much.
was gonna say, for me, I don't think I was conscious of it,
Yeah,
until
you know,
brought
you
it up.
never used
Because for
to.
me, because I've been independent for so long, like my mom,
Yeah,
like allowed me to do certain things just from a young age, like especially if I was in church. So the church said they need this, I'm just there. I'm just there. I'm just there. I'm doing that. So I'm used to just kind of getting on and making, and I've always been in leadership positions. So it's always just making decisions and making decisions. And it's almost like I translated church leadership and stuff I was doing in church or in youth groups, and I just brought it into marriage and said, okay, because I can do this, I can now do this.
yeah,
Two different things, completely two different things. So for me, it was that element. So until Tony was bringing it up, I wasn't aware of it. I was just doing what I thought I should do. A man's supposed to bring the bread in, bring the money in. You do this, you make sure you do this, you can do this, but you do this. And I was doing all of this kind of this because that's what I was brought. That's what I was taught to do.
yeah,
But there was no element of actually we're doing this together.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's funny. It's only when I was listening to some not John Piper, not Francis Chan. What's this guy? Matt Chandler. Listen to Matt Chandler, and he was talking about, and I think it was John Piper. They were talking about delegation in marriage. So it's funny because if you're looking at businesses and ministry, and there's stuff you can delegate to other people to do tasks and stuff. And he was then talking about, a guy or a man not necessarily being the most spiritual in the marriage or in the marriage. And I thought that was interesting because I've always been taught, as the head of the house, you have to be the most spiritual.
Yeah.
But he was saying that your wife might be more of an intercessor than you are, or might be someone who loves to pray than you are. But actually your role as the head of the house, again, we're going by Christian principles here, is to maybe delegate that to her and say, do you know what, actually, because you're stronger than me in leading prayer, you lead prayer in the house, or you can come up with the way we do prayer in the house because you're stronger than me. So for me, that's coming together, looking at strengths and weaknesses of both parties, and then making that work better for the marriage, if that makes sense. So in this context, I would say Tolu's a morning person. I'm not a morning person. Okay, I say
You're
that for
getting
free.
there. You're actually
I'm getting better. Trust
now.
me, I'm getting much better. But
Yeah.
trust me, I'm a late night person.
Yeah.
Trust me, give me to work till like my first album, like a little plug here, but my second album that I released in March, all of that was done in the middle of the night, literally from like 12 a.m. right round into the morning. All of those songs were created at that time because that's just when I function better. That's why I feel like I'm concentrated, I'm focused, and I just get on with stuff. Whereas Tolu, you could work at 4, 5, whatever, wake up and she'd be up, full of energy, like she's been up for ages. And I'm like, this is too much energy. Do you know what I mean? So what we then did, we said, okay, to challenge ourselves, I manage the morning prayers because for me, it's a struggle. So it's like getting up, I'm pushing myself, and Tony will manage night prayers. Again, honestly, she's getting better. But when we first got married, we could be sitting down watching a movie, 9 o'clock, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., she's gone, zoned out. And I'm like, really? And I'm fully wide awake. Oh, come on, So it's just learning the strengths and weaknesses of each other and complementing one another. But at the same time, challenging each other. Because that's what we do in terms of the prayer. So I manage morning prayers, and let me not lie, there's been times I wake up and I'm like, I'm not on it, I'm tired, God, you understand, I'm going back to bed. I'll be honest with you, that's happened. And same with Tolu, she goes, okay, I've already slept off on the sofa when I go into bed, and she's like, oh, I'm tired, and it will be this kind of 2-line prayer. And it's just like, I was like, bruh, like, come on, man, we need to intercede. This is the night we need to, and she's just not her strength. You know what I mean? So yeah. That answers the question, right?